Good evening. You're watching Partners in Law. This is Attorney Margarita F, and for this evening, we'll be discussing updates on family law, how to file annulment proceedings, and other matters regarding family law. We're very lucky this evening. We'll be joined by Attorney Regal, Oliva, my co-host.
Good evening. And of course, our guest this evening is one of the most prominent lawyers of the city of Cebu. He is the former dean of the University of San Carlos College of Law and the author of the Compendium on the Law on Persons and Family Relations. Of course, our both
Our beloved dean.
Yes, our beloved dean, and also our teacher, one of the best teachers in the College of Law, Dean Alex Monteclar. Good evening, Dean.
Good evening, Regal. Good evening, Margie.
Before anything else, we'd like to greet Dean Monteclar.
Happy birthday.
It was his birthday last week.
That was last week.
And he murag wala gid siya ni Tigong, no?
More good ever since we left the college.
That's the nice thing with being a teacher, because they always say if you're a teacher kuno murag you age gracefully. Di gina siya mo kuan. So mo gina din.
Thank you.
5 years ago or 6 years ago when I entered the halls of the University of San Carlos, mo ra gyapon na si Dean.
Youthful yun kayo.
Oo, gyud, mo gyud Dean. Dean, we have very controversial ang atong i-discuss karon. Controversial in a sense because it has always been a national topic, especially for not only for kaning mga artista nga maghiwalay ng landas, even politicians, no, it becomes a hot topic, especially contested gini siya when it comes to elections nga nagbuwag siyang asawa. So it has always been in a bad light ko ang family magwatak-watak because of failed marriages, and that is what we will be discussing tonight. Failed marriages, and why do we go to failed marriages? Dili na atong kuanon. That is not what we will be discussing tonight. Aton is the procedure on how to go about it on the annulment, or what causes the invalidity of some marriages. Mo na siya. So let's start for mga defective marriages, Dean. What are those defective marriages?
Okay, sa Regal, sa family code, under our law, there are only two kinds of defective marriages. Doon ay gitawag nato og void marriages o voidable marriages.
Okay.
Og mayon ta void marriages, meaning depektuso na siya from the very beginning.
Alright.
So ang buhato na lang sa korte mao ang pag-declare it as a void marriage, as a non-existent marriage.
Okay.
Whereas a voidable marriage is considered to be a marriage that is valid until it is annulled. Sa to pa, nasa depekto, pero until it is annulled by the court, it is still considered to be valid.
Okay. Pero din ang kaning void ug voidable marriages, kailangan gud ni og kaning judicial declaration.
Correct.
Okay.
Kung ang marriage is void, ang ipasakan nimo nga kaso is a declaration of nullity of a void marriage. Depende kung unsang klase sa void marriage. Because there are many kinds of void marriages.
Unsa examples sa void
okay,
marriage?
nanas lang makita sa Article 35, 36, 37, 38, no? 35 kaning Article 35 void because it failed to comply with the requirements under the law. Like pananglitan ang usa ninyo is minor de edad. Okay, so void yun na ang marriage, di ba? Or
minor de edad meaning 18 below.
Oh, yes.
Pwede ang babae, pwede ang lalaki.
Yes.
Basta kay nagminyo mo human below 18 mo,
Below 18,
void yun na.
Void yun na. Another one is absence of a valid marriage license.
Okay.
Wala mo yung marriage license. Napakasal nga way marriage license.
So importante kay marriage license gyud.
Yes. Or absence of marriage ceremony.
Alright.
There is no marriage ceremony. Void sad ang
So di
marriage.
gud pwede ha nga walay kasal gid din. So kailangan gyud magpatahi gid tagtrahe di boda.
Yeah. not
Pwede naman, no?
necessarily. Kaya when you say marriage ceremony, kinahanglan it is solemnized by a person authorized by law to solemnize marriage. So doon ay pare o doon ay huwis. Doon na by pastor nga
Mayor.
So dili pa
mayor.
din nga pirma sa agreed sa marriage license.
Dili na.
pwede.
Doon ay kaso ni ana nga og magritso lang og pirma sa marriage license unya why ni solemnize sa inyong marriage dili na balido. Doon ay kaso na nahitabo sa Bohol.
Oh, okay.
Unya another one is polygamous marriages. Okay? So mo na mga void marriage under Article 35.
Bigamous marriage gani din na minyo na ka then magminyo kag balik.
Yeah, ikaduha, ikatulo, wa pa ma-dissolve ang
Polygamous gani
primero.
1 2 3.
So, ang
Okay.
subsequent marriage, di na valid.
Subsequent. Oh,
Okay.
dili. Oh.
Then another one which is the most common karon, ang controversial kay kaning void because one of the party is psychologically incapacitated
Okay.
to comply with the essential marital obligation. Mo nang gitawag og Article 36, no?
Okay.
Mo na labing common kay gamiton sa mga abogado karon
murag dako na
mingon
siya
ka
gliway din, ha?
magpa-annular ka.
Ah.
Onya, doon na say another void marriage kaning gitawag nato og insistos marriage. Kaning ang nagminyo kanang managsuon, they are
Papaganak.
closely related by blood, no?
Alright.
Onya, doon na say lain nga klase sa void marriage under Article 38 kaning marriage against public policy. It is because of your relationship, like marriage between first degree cousins. So marriage between persons who are related up to the fourth civil degree.
Okay.
Nga kana imong first degree cousin, imo man ang relative up to the fourth civil degree.
Ano, so fourth civil degree gani din mao ni siya ang first degree cousin sa ato ang murag layman's term.
Layman's term. Okay, first degree cousin.
Dili ang second degree ha, fourth degree of consanguinity or consanguinity
Consanguinity,
or
Oh.
okay. Mao na first degree cousin.
Mo na first degree. Kay ang imong second cousin sa layman's term nato, second cousin sa balaod is sixth or seventh degree. Layo na siya.
Layo na.
Okay.
Okay? Now, marriage between step-parents and step-children, di na pwede.
All right.
Or between parents-in-law and children-in-law. Between adopting parents and adopted children.
Okay.
Dili na sila
Pwede.
valid nga marriage. So they are, og magminyo man gani ning mga tawhana nga they are closely related by blood, by consanguinity or by affinity, ang marriage is considered void ab initio.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so these are what we call as the void marriages. Ang voidable marriages, mo ni gitawag na tog annullable marriages, and they are found in Article 45 sa Family Code. Usually, ang kaning mga annullable marriages are based on absence of a valid consent. There is a vice or defect in the consent. Okay? Now, pananglitan kaning lack of parental consent could be a ground
Ang kanang parental consent din kailangan gyud na kwaon gyud na sa duha bride and groom.
No, that is required only if a party is between the age of 18 to 21.
All right. Okay.
Kanang parental consent. Kayo, you are over 21 but below 25, parental advice na lang
All
ang
right.
kinahanglan.
Ang parental advice din is that also required? Will that be a valid valid grounds for voidable marriages?
No, without parental advice, it will not make the marriage
Voidable.
void.
Okay.
Ang kanang parental consent mo yung necessary kayo.
Kailangan
okay.
both parents or either parent ra.
Either parent.
Either parent.
Okay.
No, so kana sang mga marriage bitaw nga ang kanang consent sa usa was acquired through force or intimidation or through fraud.
Dagan gina kanang mga shotgun marriages din.
Mga shotgun marriages kanang gi-threaten ka para magpakasal nianing tawhana or kanang ilad kanang mga there is fraud. Yeah, fraud.
Unsa may example sa fraud din? Kana kung mingon ka nga daghan kog kwarta, is that fraud?
No, that is not the
Okay.
kind of fraud.
Unsa man
Ang
ang
fraud that could invalidate the marriage are those enumerated in Article 46.
Alright.
Patra na sila ka klase nga fraud. Kanang one is concealment of the fact that at the time of the marriage you are already pregnant and the author is somebody else. Silbi ang babae,
Okay.
nagpakasal sa lalaki, wa niya sulti ang lalaki nga mabdos na day siya ang tag-iya lain.
Ayan.
So bali iya na lang gipaangkon ang gipakaslan.
Okay.
Okay.
So what if din nga kung ang lalaki wala nahibaw nga buntis, that is still concealment.
Yes,
Pero kung
yeah.
giangkon sa babae nga buntis siya pero yung giilad, that is
That is another
Fraud
that is
Fraud
not
gyapon na
fraud.
siya,
Og
okay.
iyang giingnan nga buntis ko ikay
Ikaw,
tag-iya.
tag-iya.
That's also a kind of fraud.
pero what if din wala gud siya nahibaw?
Huh?
Di ba?
Wa siya kibaw sa paternity.
Abi lang gid yung siya. Is that still fraud? Kay kung good faith ba din ba? Is that will that
Dili na kay ang wording nga gigamit sa balaod good concealment man god. So
Ah,
yun say
right.
concealment.
So kung na
ato
good
pa imong
faith.
gitago. So good faith walay concealment.
bitaw?
Diba?
Abi lang gid niya ba? No? So okay.
Correct. Onya, even kanang concealment of the fact that you have been convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude. That's considered also as a serious kind of fraud.
Kanang moral turpitude din no, ang mostly mga abogado ra ginakasabot ana. Unsa man ginang moral turpitude?
Sama sa mga kanang mga cases like rape, homicide, murder, estafa, yes,
okay.
estafa.
Covered na.
Kana bitang makaapektar sa karakter sa tao.
Okay.
Nga sa to pa ikaw mangingilad ka gyud ay or nadyo kay tendency to do bad.
Alright.
Manay involved
So kanang mga
in moral
unjust
turpitude.
vexation din is that moral turpitude?
That would involve moral turpitude.
Oh, okay.
Covered yan.
Miski unjust
Covered.
vexation di ay no. All right. So
Mga cases like that, ug imo nang gitago sa mga asawa, like for example, pag pangasawa nimo, wa nimo siya sultii nga convicted ay ka kaniadto, no na kay prior conviction of a crime of estafa, or na convicted ka kaniadto og rape, or na convicted ka bisag homicide. So that could be a ground to declare the marriage as void. Because that is considered fraud. Sa ato pamurag, wa nimo sulti is tinuod ang imong asawa or ang imong kapikas, that is do na kay gitago niya, that is considered fraud. Okay? So, do na sad kaning concealment of sexually transmissible disease.
okay, mo ni siyang
At the time of
HIV.
yes.
Not necessarily HIV din no, biski STD lang.
Bisag STD lang.
Or
Okay.
even an infection.
Okay.
Miski ka na lang mga kuan lang, mga gonorrhea. That can be grounds for
Okay.
for marriage to be declared void.
Okay. So mo na mga different kinds of fraud that could invalidate the marriage. So kung dunay fraud or dunay force or intimidation sa consent of the other party, that would be a ground for annulment of marriage. Ang kana gyud unta nga term nga annulment should only be used for voidable marriages.
All right.
Kay og ang marriage is void from the very beginning. Ang correct term gyud o ang ipaksakan nimo nga kaso, ang title sa kaso should have been declaration of nullity of marriage.
So kada mo ingon annulment kay tungod psychologically incapacitated dili na siya.
That's not an accurate term because
Okay.
annulment should have been only for voidable marriages.
All right. So for especially sa legal profession nato kay ang layman man gyud din annulment man diretso miski pag
correct.
kuan, di
But
ba?
I have
Psychological
noticed
incapacity or not.
I have noticed even some lawyers and judges would still use that word annulment even on Article 36 katong psychological
correct. Tinuod
incapacity.
No?
Nga di man gyud unta kay buwid gud na siya because psychological incapacity is one of the void marriages. So ang imong title sa kaso should have been declaration of nullity of
Okay.
a void marriage on the ground of psychological incapacity.
Now that we touch psychological incapacity naman gyud din, and it has always it's also been kana bang talk of the town recently nga ningon ang Supreme Court nga liberal na kuno kay stand when it comes to
Nga they want a
psychological
relaxation of the
incapacity.
rules, diba?
Yes.
Kay murag sa history siguro sa ato ang jurisprudence, Marge, murag pito raman siguro na approve sa psychological incapacity by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
So karon ni ana magud sila nga mas liberal kuno kaayo ang kuan. So ikawalo na ni karon dino.
Yes, kanirong bagong kaso, I think this is the case of Carlau, this was Fernandez. if I'm not
January ni
mistaken.
siya.
This was decided January,
Of
just this year, 2015,
2015, okay.
by Justice Lucas Bersamin. Pero this is actually not a new ruling. Ilaraning gikopya sa karaan nga ruling atong 2009 sa T versus T. Now, allow me to explain first unsa ning psychological incapacity
Sige,
para
okay.
makasabot ang atong mga
okay.
listeners. Kaning psychological incapacity is the most, I would say, the most
Overuse.
Abuse.
provision in the family code. Kaya ug moadto kag abogado karon mingon ka nga nagdugay na mi nagbuwag sa akong asawa or sa akong bana, wa na mi magpuyo, ganahan ako ipanular ang among kaminyoon. Ang kasagaran gud mi nga gamiton sa abogado kaning Article 36.
Psychological.
Nga kani atong gamiton, atong i-accuse nga ang imong bana or imong asawa is psychologically incapacitated. Nganong ingon ani man kini tungod kay paghimo nila ng Article 36 as part of the family code. Wa gyud na nila tagai og klaro kay nga meaning.
Alright.
Because the intention was to give kuno the judge a greater leeway in deciding the case on a case-to-case basis.
Okay.
Dili kay ngon nga murag magapos ka sa klaro kayo nga dunay definite meaning. So ang gihatag ra gyud nila na nga murag meaning, general meaning sa psychological incapacity is the failure or the incapacity of a spouse to comply with any of the essential marital obligation
Okay.
because of psychological reason. Sa ato pa, ang bana for example, mo imong i-accuse nga psychologically incapacitated, dili siya makahimo sa usa sa mga importante kayo nga obligasyon
Okay.
sa usa ka bana. Tungod kay dunay defekto siya psychologically.
Oh, alright. Okay.
So, giklaro gyud ni sa Supreme Court nga dili ni siya mental dili ni siya mental incapacity, dili ni siya mental defect. Kaya ang uban god magunahuna man god.
Bitaw mo
nga
kinang common
find
nga
out.
they would think mental.
Yes,
No?
yes.
So, what's yung psychological capacity? Buang
Oh,
tao.
mo
Okay.
ang layman's understanding na mingon din kay kadaghan ako nakadungog na nga ang asawa pananglitan mo imo file og kaso sa korte. Accuse niya ang bana nga psychologically incapacitated. Masuko ang bana, musukol na noon. Mutubag gyud kay unsa pagtuon niya nako buang.
Oh, okay.
Which is very wrong.
Okay.
Psychological incapacity does not mean that you are insane or
Okay.
mentally defective.
Okay.
Okay, before we continue, let's take a break.
And now we're back. We took off with psychological incapacity nga kung mafailan og kaso either asawa or bana sa psychological incapacity, it has already been cleared out by Dean Monteclar nga dili kini sa mental illness or mental defectiveness sa usa ka tawo. So ang kanang psychological incapacity din maugid kuno to ang this is the
Most abused.
most abused
Abused.
kanang article or provision in the family code, especially for the nullity, for the declaration of nullity of marriage, or even for they call it annulment to sa ato ang mga layman.